Hello, my name is Battalion Chief Chad Morris with Sylvania Fire-EMS, and I'm really excited to be here today to show you this video because that means that you are considering a career with Sylvania Fire-EMS. This might be the best decision you've ever made. I've been here for 25 years. I've had multiple opportunities to work at other area fire departments, but I chose to plant my roots here in Sylvania because of the amazing people who work here and the first-class services that we provide. Sylvania is an all-hazards fire service with progressive leadership, a true sense of brotherhood amongst the personnel, and a community that truly loves their fire department. Now, I can sit here all day and talk about all the amazing things that our fire department has to offer, but I know that's not why you're here. So, let's talk about why you're here. You're here because there's a few steps that you need to take on your way to this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. This video will go over in great detail the Sylvania Fire Physical Ability Test. The job of a firefighter is a physically demanding one. This test will let us know you are prepared for the physical demands of the job. Our test was carefully designed and validated by Fire Police Selection Inc., a company that has designed firefighter testing for over 30 years for many of the largest fire departments in the country. The pass-fail time for our test is 8 minutes. So let's get to it.
Event 1 is the dry hose deployment. The candidate will advance a pre-connected 1 3/4 dry hose line for 120 feet. Each 50-foot section weighs 14 pounds for a total of 42 pounds of dry weight dragged. This event simulates extending a dry offensive hose line from an apparatus to a fire scene for firefighting operations. When performing this event, candidates should place the hose nozzle over their shoulder and onto their chests. It is important for the candidates to lean their weight forward and move at a rapid yet safe pace. Candidates are required to keep one hand on the hose nozzle at all times. If candidates do not keep one hand on the nozzle, they will be given a warning. If the behavior continues, the candidate will be required to start the event from the beginning. When deploying the hose around the obstacles, candidates will be required to overshoot or go past the obstacle and touch the designated area on the course before making the turn. This will reduce the friction on the hose and make it easier to deploy. At the completion of the event, candidates are required to place the hose nozzle in the designated area. If the hose nozzle is not placed within the designated area, candidates will be asked to go back and set the nozzle in the appropriate place. After successful completion of the dry hose drag, candidates should walk to the next event. Event 2, Charged Hose Deployment. The candidate advances a pre-connected 1 3/4 charged hose line for 70 feet. This event simulates extending a charged offensive hose line to the seat of a fire for firefighting operations. When performing this event, candidates should place the hose nozzle over their shoulder and onto their chests. It is important for candidates to lean their weight forward and move at a rapid yet safe pace. Candidates are allowed to proceed through this event as quickly as possible, which may include running. They are not allowed to run between test events. When deploying the hose around the obstacles, candidates will be required to overshoot or go past the obstacle and touch the designated area on the course before making the turn. Any of the following methods is acceptable for advancing the hose through the crawl tunnel: facing forward at all times, or turning backwards in the crawl tunnel at any point. Candidates may not use the frames of the crawl tunnel to brace themselves to aid in advancing the hose. At the completion of the event, candidates are required to place the hose nozzle in the designated area. If the hose nozzle is not placed within the designated area, candidates will be asked to go back and set the nozzle in the appropriate place. After successful completion of the charged hose deployment, candidates should walk to the next event. Event 3, Halyard Raise. The candidate raises and lowers the fly section of a 24-foot aluminum extension ladder with a halyard. The pull resistance of the ladder is approximately 26 pounds. This event simulates raising and lowering the fly of a 24-foot aluminum extension ladder in order to access higher floors for rescue, ventilation, and other firefighting operations. Candidates may use one of two methods for raising the extension ladder. A candidate may use a thumbs up, hand over hand raise, or a thumbs down, hand over hand raise. Candidates are allowed to use a two-handed method to begin the raise, but must continue the event with a hand over hand technique. Candidates are not allowed to jump up and grasp the halyard. Both feet must remain on the ground at all times. Candidates are not allowed to crouch down and use their lower body to perform the raise. If the rope slips through the candidate's hands during the halyard raise, the candidate must restart the event from the beginning. If the rope slips through the candidate's hands a second time during the halyard raise, the candidate is disqualified from the test. After successful completion of the halyard raise, candidates should walk to the next event. Event 4, Roof Walk. The candidate ascends and descends a 10-foot distance, walking or crawling on the rungs of a 14-foot straight ladder while carrying a 22-pound chainsaw. This event simulates walking on a straight ladder with the appropriate equipment in order to perform ventilation operations. Candidates are required to touch every rung on the way up the ladder with at least 1 foot, including the run designated with the tape at the 10-foot mark. If candidates skip rungs on the way up the ladder, they will be required to start the event from the beginning. Candidates are not required to touch every rung on the way down the ladder. Candidates should proceed down the ladder in a manner that is comfortable and safe. Candidates are not allowed to turn around and walk down the ladder. If candidates fail to back down the ladder, they will be required to start the event from the point at which they turned forward. Candidates are allowed to slide the chainsaw along the roof when backing down the ladder. Candidates may also carry the chainsaw when backing down the ladder. The chainsaw must be returned to the designated area after the completion of the event. If the candidate does not return the chainsaw to the designated area, they will be asked to put it in the appropriate place before going to the next event. After successful completion of the roof walk, candidates should proceed to the next event. Event 5, Attic Crawl. Candidates will crawl a distance of 20 feet across a simulated attic area while carrying a flashlight in his or her hands. This event simulates walking or crawling on joists in an attic to search for the extension of a fire. Candidates are required to pick up the flashlight and proceed across the attic prop, staying below the barriers. Candidates may either crawl on their hands and knees across the attic prop or crab walk on their hands and feet, as long as the candidates stay below the barriers. If a candidate knocks over a barrier, the proctor will reset the barrier, and the candidate will start the event from the beginning. Candidates may not drop their hands or feet through the joists touching the ground below the attic prop. If candidates touch the ground, they will be required to start the event from the beginning. Candidates must place the flashlight in the original designated box to signify the completion of the event. If candidates do not return the flashlight to the designated area, they will be asked to return it to the appropriate place before going on to the next event. After successful completion of the attic crawl, candidates should walk to the next event. Event 6, Roof Ventilation. Candidate stands on a pitched rooftop and strikes the roof 30 times with an 11-pound sledgehammer. This event simulates making a ventilation opening in a roof with an axe or sledgehammer in order to ventilate a fire. Candidates will pick up the sledgehammer from the designated area. Candidates can either place one foot on the footrest provided or stand closer to the strike area if necessary. For each strike, the candidates are required to raise the sledgehammer above their helmet and strike the roof while maintaining control of the sledgehammer. The number of strikes will be counted out loud by the proctor during the event. Improper strikes will not be counted. An improper strike is one that is not raised above the helmet or one in which control of the sledgehammer is not maintained at all times. If the sledgehammer is brought above the helmet and then simply allowed to fall back down to the prop, the candidate is not maintaining control of the sledgehammer. After completing the event, the sledgehammer should be placed in the designated area. If candidates do not place the sledgehammer in the designated area, they will be asked to return it to the appropriate place before going on to the next event. After successful completion of the roof ventilation, candidates should walk to the next event. Event 7, Victim Removal. The candidate carries or drags a dummy for 16 feet. This event simulates removing an injured or unconscious victim from a hazardous area. The candidates must move the mannequin completely around the cones and place the mannequin back in the starting position. If candidates fail to carry or drag the dummy completely around a cone, they will be asked to go back and properly maneuver the dummy around the cone. If candidates fail to place the dummy back in the starting position, they will be asked to go back and put the dummy in the proper place before proceeding to the next event. Straps will be provided on the mannequin for use by candidates. However, you may choose a different method to move the candidate around the cone. After successful completion of the victim removal, candidates should walk to the next event. The candidate removes a 16-foot aluminum straight ladder from mounted hooks, carries the ladder 55 feet around a diamond-shaped course, and replaces the ladder to the mounted hooks. The weight of the ladder is 39 pounds. This event simulates removing a straight ladder from an apparatus, carrying it to the site of use, and replacing it to the apparatus. There are 3 methods that may be used when completing this event: the high shoulder carry, the low shoulder carry, and the suitcase carry. With all methods, candidates should begin by finding the balance point of the ladder. If, in the proctor's opinion, the candidate loses control of the ladder while carrying it around the designated area, the proctor may intervene. The proctor will take the ladder from the candidate, placing it on the ground at the place where the candidate lost control. The candidate can then pick the ladder up in any fashion and continue. When replacing the ladder, both ends of the ladder must be in control and off the ground. If one end of the ladder hits the ground during replacement, The proctor will assist the candidate in grounding the ladder, and the candidate will then be required to replace it properly. The ladder must be replaced on the hooks in the proper position. Candidates are not allowed to lean or brace the ladder against the engine during replacement. If a candidate leans the ladder against the engine, they will be required to remove the ladder and replace it properly. While performing this event, candidates are allowed 2 penalties. A penalty includes any 2 of the following: when a candidate drops the ladder, when candidates lose control of the ladder and the proctor assists in grounding, when candidates voluntarily ground the ladder to gain stability, and lastly, when the ladder falls over the neck of the candidate, with the candidate's neck between the ladder rungs. In this case, the proctor will assist in the removal and grounding of the ladder. If a 3rd penalty occurs, candidates will be disqualified. After successful completion of the ladder removal carry, candidates should walk to the next event. Event 9. Crawling Search. The candidate crawls on the ground floor for a distance of 46 feet. This event simulates crawling while conducting search and rescue, hose deployment, or attic operations in a burning structure. Candidates are required to crawl on their hands and knees around the designated area on the ground floor, or at least have 3 points of contact. Cones will be set up to guide candidates in the right direction and ensure that they crawl the total distance. After completing the crawl, candidates must stand up and walk to the next event. Event 10. Stair Climb with Hose. The candidate ascends and descends a total of 3 flights of stairs with a 34-pound high-rise pack, comprised of 100 feet of 2-inch hose. This event simulates climbing stairs with a high-rise pack in order to fight fires in multiple-story buildings. There are 2 ways in which the hose bundle may be carried. Candidates may put the hose bundle over their left shoulder or right shoulder and proceed up the stairs. Candidates may also carry the hose bundle in their arms, although this method is not the most efficient. Candidates are allowed to skip steps on the way up as well as use the handrails. Candidates are not allowed to skip steps on the way down the stairs. Every step must be touched. If candidates fail to touch a step with their foot, they will be required to go back and touch that step before proceeding down the stairs. Once the candidate has ascended and descended the staircase for a total of 3 flights climbed, the candidate will drop the hose pack in the box and the time will be stopped.